Okay, so it's dark and I'm driving, but this just came to me as I am thinking about certain things. So I want to talk about relationships and titles because something came up in my, Facebook memories where it says something like a title isn't important until he dies and you're not allowed to go to his funeral because of his wife or something like that. And yeah, it's supposed to be like, haha, gotcha type thing. But it also makes me think because I'm like sitting here thinking about relationships and levels of relationships and the things that people do in relationships and are expected to do in relationships without certain commitments. So there are levels to dating, okay? So you can be casually dating someone, you can be exclusively dating someone, and then once you're exclusive, then you can decide if you want to be in a relationship or not. That in itself, there's levels to that. Then you're in a relationship and everyone knows, or at least my motto is, within the first year if the person you're with is someone that you can marry or you think that you can marry them, because things can happen after that year that make you be like, wait a minute, let me back it up. But as far as I know, I feel like within that year you should know everything you know about someone as to whether or not you want to make a deeper commitment, as in dating long term. So for me, the next step would be, to talk about or discuss marriage. I say talk about or discuss because not everyone wants to get married. So we're not going to assume that that is rightfully the next step in people's lives because not everyone wants to do that. So we can't be like, oh yeah, the next step is to get engaged. No, because you might never want to get married, and that's 100% okay. But you need to talk about what the next step is for you. So sometimes that could be, cohabitating. That can be having children. That can look a lot of different ways. It just depends on the couple, their needs, and their wants. And I say the couple because male and female perspectives should also be considered, as that is not always the case. So there's a lot of long-term relationships where the female feels like they should be engaged by now, and the male feels like that's not the case. Like the male might feel like, they need more time, like they've been together 10 years and the guy still hasn't proposed yet. Me personally, I've never been one that's big on like, hey, let's get married. I feel like it's an important step to take, but I've never been like in a rush. Like when I had my first boyfriend, like the love of my life, I remember having a conversation with him about children. Like we never said, oh, we're gonna get married. It was always like, we're gonna have this many kids. Obviously we're not together, but my point being is I've never been that, oh, I can't wait to get married female. So not so much for me. But there are females who are in longer term relationships who are basically waiting, but in this wait they lose what they want because they feel like they have to prove themselves, as being this wife or wife material as far as what they have to give in the relationship. So my thing is like, when do levels end? Because as far as I see it, most people, mainly men who don't want to commit into a longer term relationship, because 9 times out of 10 it's the man. Sometimes it is the female who's in a relationship, but that's not the majority, that's the minority. But mostly the men, they want to be in these long term relationships, which to me is fine, because if you're not ready for certain commitments, then you shouldn't be ready for certain commitments. So if you're not ready to be in this marriage, you don't want to move in together, you don't want to cohabitate, you don't want to, build a future, buy homes, all of that good stuff together, then you also shouldn't expect her to cook your meals and wash your clothes and do certain things for you. I mean, hell, she don't even really have to have sex with you if we really want to be technical, because she's not your wife, she's your girlfriend. So technically, like, but for that she could be single. But for that you could be single, and for everything else you could be single. So my thing is, like, where do levels start and end? Like, for instance, okay, so we're dating casually. Do I meet the kids? Or do I wait till we're in a relationship to meet the kids? Some people would argue that you meet the kids while you're dating casually in case the kids hate the person. Then you don't have to worry about, oh my God, we're in 6 months and now my kids hate this man or woman. Like, what am I going to do? Or vice versa, they hate my kids. Maybe you have some badass kids and it's not going to work because they didn't know that you had these badass kids, and your badass kids don't listen to nobody. They ain't their mother, their daddy, what have you. So for you, when does that happen? Is that casually dating or is that exclusively dating? And mind you, I'm not putting any dates on the dating timeline. So you can casually date for 2 weeks and then be like, hey, let's be exclusive. Like, to me, that's all good and well, because I feel like you should date how you feel. You shouldn't go by, oh, well, we've been together 5 months, so now 5 months we should be doing this, and then a year we should do this, and in 3 years we should do this. I don't go by that timeline. So I'm just asking by the definitions and the depth of dating, because that's how I see it. Like, you're casually dating, then you're like in a serious committed relationship, and then there's levels to that too. But at one point, do you say, okay, I've been in this level of relationship for X amount of time and I feel like it's not going anywhere, I'm not fulfilled, and it's time for me to move on, or it's time for me to have a conversation, or it's time for me to say how I feel? Because this is what I find is usually the problem. The woman or male is unfulfilled in some capacity. Something they're not getting, something, they're not seeing, something. There's something about the relationship that's not working. And instead of having an adult conversation as far as, this is what's going on, this is how I feel, this is how you get people that get cheated on and start cheating, because they don't know how to express their wants and needs in an adult manner that could help the situation. I'm not saying it would, I'm saying it could, because sometimes it just can't be fixed. Sometimes you just really don't need to be together. And then sometimes it's just like, okay, well, we have kids together. Shit happens. So some people start dating and then 3 months in, they're pregnant. So what do you say now? Like, oh my God, okay, many can say, they shouldn't have the baby. You chose to have the baby. You didn't know the man. Everybody doesn't believe in termination. Everybody can't carry a baby full term and put it up for adoption. Some people don't want to do that. Some people just want to have their babies. So what say you now to that person who is now like, oh my God, it's a year in, I don't know this man, we have a kid, blah, 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 blah. So I feel like I'm all over the place, which I probably am. But I'm going to go back to my original statement question, what have you. What are the levels to you? And what's acceptable and what's not? And how do you go about editing things in your life that you may not be happy with as far as your relationship goes? Like, like I just said, that relationship that you're in and you're really not happy, but it's kind of there. Nothing really happened that was bad. So you're still with the person, but you're just kind of like, like, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. We have kids, but, it's always like you know what I mean? Like, so what say you? Like, for instance, does what you do depend on the time spent in the relationship? Like, if you've been together 5 years, does it make it, more likely for you to be like, nah, let me stick this out because we got 5 years? Even if you have no attachment. So let's say 5 years, no kids. Like, does that make you stick it out more than, let's say, 2 years 10 years, no, 5 years, no kids, would you stick that out versus 3 years, one kid? Because then some would say that the one kid trumps the 5-year time. Like, the person with the one kid would tell the 5-year person, oh, you should leave because you don't have no kids, right? The 5-year person could tell the 3 person, oh, well, you should leave because it's only 3 years. Even though you have a kid, you still didn't waste all this time. So again, what are the levels to relationships? Because I feel like that is also part of the problem, because a lot of people don't have the same timelines on relationships. So someone could be like, oh, this is a serious relationship, and they only been together for a couple of months, and someone else could have not the same idea for less amount of time. So what do you think? I'm gonna have to really watch this over and figure out what I did here and maybe add some edits, but I feel like y'all should get the idea. All right, bye.